What I want to do in this video is to show you how you might go about writing your papers from using the templates that I provide to using library resources, especially peer-reviewed journal articles, to writing the paper and then how to publish your paper in the correct way. In this particular demonstration, I'm going to show you how to do an import into the Moodle uh, environment. It's different for discussion forum than it is for the written assignment and for the learning journal. For the latter two, the learning journal and written assignment, you don't import your papers. What you do is you upload those papers as documents, Word documents, into your learning environment. But it's different for the discussion forum because we're not uploading a document. What we're doing is we're importing content. And there's a difference, and I want to review that today. So, what I'd like to do is begin by looking at the uh, documents that you will use when you write your papers. So to do that, you want to go to announcements. So over on the far left side of your screen, you will see uh, announcements. So click on that once. And then what you'll see are the various documents that I have posted. So each week I will post at least three, 2 to 3 new outlines. So down here at the bottom, for since this is week one that I'm recording this video, you'll only see three. The Learning Journal Unit 1 outline, you'll see the Written Assignment Unit 1 outline, and you'll see the Discussion Forum outline for Unit 1. So you'll want to, whatever assignment you're working on, you want to open one of these. And today we're going to be looking at the Discussion Forum outline for Unit 1. Before I open that, I want to open the document that you will use, or the template that you will use to actually write and publish your paper. And that's up here, and it's called Essay Template, required for all papers. So let's go ahead and open that. So I click on it once, then I go scroll down here and I'll see APA 7th template .docx. So I'm going to click on that, and then over in my download area for this for I use I'm going to click on that, and it opens as a template. And then right here, mine opens up in a protected view. I don't know what your settings are, so you may not have this, but to use it, I need to enable editing. So here I have the template that I will use and you would want to use for your papers. In fact, you'll use this template for every single paper that you write in this class. Now, if I were writing this paper for the written assignment or for the learning journal, I would keep this information. This is called the title page. So I would want to have a title page for my written assignment and for the learning journal. But for the discussion forum, we don't need that information. It's a different type of environment, and so we don't necessarily need to add the title page. So I recommend you can keep it if you want to, but I would say if you're writing for the discussion forum, just eliminate it. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to move the rest of the information that I need up to the top. So we have now sort of set up our template. We're going to come back to this frequently as we move through the setup phase for our assignment. So now let's go back to the forum in announcements, and let's click on announcements and then scroll down until you see discussion forum outline unit 1. It may say discussion forum unit 1 outline, something like that, but it'll typically be very similar to this. So let's click on that, and you'll see here I wrote, I highly recommend that students use the attached outline to research and write their Unit 1 discussion forum essays. So let's click on that. And we go up here to our area where the documents are uploaded. And here we have the outline. So I'm going to enable editing, although I'm not actually going to write on this document. I'm not going to, this is merely an outline to help me write this. This is what I'm going to actually write on. I'm going to write here, but I'm going to use this outline as a reference for my paper. So here, let's take a look at what this says. It says discussion forum unit 1 essay outline. So this is an outline. You can use what you want from this. I recommend that you take a look at using all of it, but you don't necessarily have to. It's up to you. But remember that this is based on what I would consider a best paper. A best paper would include at least most, if not all, of these particular outline items. So you must use, it says here, you must use the APA 7th template that I provided in announcements. Well, that's what this is. So you must use this to write your paper. Okay, let's see what else it says. After you have written your paper using that template, you'll use the Moodle import feature. If you do not know how to use import, watch the video I provided in the course guide. Watch the video to the very end. Well, that video is available to you in the course guide, but this is a newer video that I'm creating, and so you could watch both. This one will cover pretty much what that video covers, but it may be good to watch both of them, but definitely watch the other one. But I recommend watching both. Okay, so in this outline, we see some information in parentheses here. It says introduction. Do not use introduction as a section heading. Okay, so let's go back to our template, and we notice that there is no heading here, right? So these are headings, like second level heading, third level heading, fourth level heading, and fifth level heading. And these are all the way they should be if you're doing an APA formatted paper, which is what you'll always be doing at this university and in my class. So here we see it says the title is the first level heading. So this is the first level heading. Notice it is centered and bold. The first paragraph or two is your introduction. This paragraph is an example of what your introduction should look like. So this is what your introduction should look like. Not these words, but this is what it should look like. Notice that we do not create a section heading for our introduction. So to do this, that would be wrong. Because in APA, we do not use introduction as a section heading. So we never have that as a section heading. Okay, but notice that we will have one for our conclusion. Only that we have one for the conclusion, but not the introduction. So we begin writing it after the title. So our introduction is written immediately after the title in these two paragraphs. Two paragraphs is usually sufficient. The first paragraph of your introduction should provide your reader with a brief synopsis of your paper. This doesn't have to be lengthy. And do not copy the assignment instructions here and use that as your introduction. What I do, or what I would do, is I would take the instructions for the assignment and paraphrase them and make that the first paragraph of your introduction and state what your thesis is in that first paragraph. In the second paragraph, what you want to do is you want to tell your reader what you've done in terms of organization in your paper. So you're telling your reader in the first paragraph, you're introducing the topic and what you plan to discuss. That's the what. In the second paragraph, you're telling your readers how you organized. It should be your paper. Okay. You should tell the readers what the sections are and provide a brief sentence that summarizes each section. So you might write something along the lines in this paper, I first introduce Marx and his theories related to oppression of the working class by the owners of industry. See, that's the crux of Marx's entire argument is he's creating what he calls a conflict theory. And his conflict theory is an argument of the relationship between the working class and the industry owners, the factory owners. And within that relationship, there is oppression. And there were at the time of Marx only two classes. We only had the upper class and the lower classes. There really wasn't at that time. There wasn't much of a middle class. The middle class is a later sociological phenomenon that was created as the working class became not wealthy, but gained more money, gain more privilege, more status, and so on in society. So then we saw that there was an introduction of the middle class, but we still had the lower class and the upper class, right? So, anyway, so this provides then a context, what I write in here, for understanding the rest of my paper. I usually have the section headings so that the section headings will be part of my second paragraph here. Okay, so I think I'll show you later what I mean by that more specifically. So let's go back to this document. So I provide in my introduction some background information. This is a brief introduction to Karl Marx as a historical figure and, and a sociologist. And then in that introduction, usually your first paragraph, you state your thesis. Excuse me. Now, and remember, we don't use introduction as a section heading. We just begin writing those paragraphs. Then in the next section of my paper, I probably want to talk about Karl Marx's contributions to sociology. And I have in parentheses, hey, that's a suggested section heading. So why not use it? So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to my paper, and I'm going to place it there. All right, so I do this. I want to format this as a section. Let's see, I'm going to use 12, and it is all the way over here to the far right. So my first section heading is Karl Marx's contribution to sociology. I want to just point out in English anyway, with an X or a name that ends with X or S, you don't actually need to add another. This would be perfectly fine. Karl Marx's contribution to sociology, or you could add the S. Okay, depends on what rules you're following. All right, so I'm going to use that as my second level heading there. And let me go back to the template and notice perceptions, and I'm not even looking at this yet. I'm just setting up the broad brush strokes of my paper, not getting into this stuff. So let's look at the next one. Perceptions of Marx in society. Well, suggested section. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to copy it. Perceptions of Marx in society. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put perceptions of Marx in society. And I'm going to format it like I formatted this other. It's a second level heading. Okay. And I'm going to go down to the next section and I'm going to look personal reflections on Marx, suggested section heading. So I'm going to use that. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it. I want to make sure that I have it formatted correctly according to APA standards. All right, now I'm going to go down to the next. Let's see what else. And then it says conclusion. And as you know from what I've said already, although we don't have an introduction in our paper, we always have a section heading titled conclusion. So I'm going to put that in my paper. Well, actually, it's already there. All right. So let's do we need any of this stuff here? Well, we won't need all of it, but we will need some of it. Okay? So let's leave it there for now because we're going to be copying and pasting some of this into these sections of our paper. And now remember, all we're doing here is we're setting up our paper. We're not doing any research yet. All we're doing is setting up the structure of our paper. So under Karl Marx's contribution to sociology, let's go back to our outline. Okay, and here the outline suggests that we talk about three things: historical context, his core concepts, and his influence and legacy. That's his contributions to sociology. So I would use them, and let's copy and go back here, and let's paste that. And since it's a second level heading, we want to make sure, let's go back to a third level heading, and let's look at how a third level heading is formatted. So down here, let's format that. Let's format it according to this third level heading. So let's copy the formatting and paste. Okay, so this third level heading here falls under this second level heading, and that's in APA. That's how you tell the sections. So anybody who knows APA knows that if they see this, it's a subheading of Karl Marx's contributions to sociology, which is second level heading. Okay. Now let's go back to the outline. Core concepts. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste it. Then I'm going to copy the formatting. Okay. And get rid of this. We don't need it. And we have one more. Influence and legacy. So I like that. So I'm gonna copy influence and legacy, and I'm gonna paste it, and I'm gonna copy the formatting, and there. Now this is the first section of my paper, right? And it maps to this. And we'll get into the rest of this content in a minute. Well, I want to just set up my paper first. So the next section is perceptions of Marx in society. So that's this heading, second level heading. But just as we did here, we created several third level section headings. I'm going to do the same for perceptions of Marx in society. So we go back to this outline, and it suggests that I talk about global perceptions. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to paste that, and then I want to copy the formatting and make sure that it's formatted as a third level heading. Now let's go down to the back to the outline, and then I'm going to use local context. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it. I'm going to copy the formatting, and I have my second section of my paper set up. Let's go to the next one, personal reflections on Marx. So here, personal reflections on Marx. There are 3 sections that we can add. This would be where I'm talking about me, my personal reflections on Marx. So personal encounters, I'm going to use that. So I'm going to add personal encounters. I'm going to paste the formatting. I go back, influence on societal views. I'm going to use that. I'm going to copy and paste the formatting. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy critical evaluation because I want to offer in my paper, I want to offer my critical evaluation uh, or my analysis of um, my personal reflections on Marx. Then we go to conclusion. So in the conclusion, we can add three sections. We could add summary. So let's go down to, I'm going to get rid of this. No, I'm not yet. Let's go down to conclusion. And again, I remember I said, although we do not create a heading for our introduction, we do so for our conclusion. All right. And notice it's a second level. So I'm going to create, on my conclusion, I'm going to create three sections. One I'm going to create is called summary. I'm going to create personal stance. And I'm going to create future implications. And I want to copy and I want to paste the formatting. So I'm going to copy that formatting, come over here, summary, personal stance, future implications. Okay. And then I have a reference section down here. So these are just placeholders. So I can get rid of those. I don't need them because they're meaningless for this paper. So now let's go back again and we can get rid of this because we've already covered what needs to be included. So I'm just going to put a placeholder for introduction because I know I'm just going to begin writing my introduction. I got to spell it right. All right. So that's a placeholder for my introduction, my 2 paragraphs. Okay, so let's go back to the outline and look at what is recommended in terms of historical context. Oh, what I want to point out too, this is something that students do that's incorrect. Do not use colons for any section heading. We don't do colons in APA. Don't do dashes. We don't use dashes in APA. Do not use bullet points. We don't use bullet points for section headings in APA. Okay? It should look exactly like this. Okay? All right, so the next thing that we do is we go back to our paper here. So we go back to the outline here, and let's take a look at what we want to add for historical context. So the recommendation is to provide a brief overview of the socioeconomic conditions during Marx's time to understand the context of his theories. Okay. So, what were the socioeconomic conditions during Marx's time? Well, I already covered that in brief. I stated that there were really only two classes. There was the rich and the poor. Marx referred to the two as the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So those were the two classes that existed. So for your background information, brief introduction of Karl, or brief overview of the socioeconomic conditions during Marx's time to understand the context of his theories. So we'll come back to that in a minute. what would we, I'm just giving examples right now. We'll get into how we would do the research for these things. For the next section of our paper, uh, go to it. Core concepts. So here we're going to have historical context. Then we get into the core concepts. What is it that we're going to write under core concepts? Well, if we go back to the outline, core concepts, we want to discuss Marx's key sociological theories, such as class struggle and the concept of class consciousness. What does Marx say about this? Historical materialism and the idea that economic base influence that the um, the economic base influences the social superstructure. So, uh, in other words, the economic status of individuals or society, it influences the way society is structured. Society is structured to support um, the uh, the classes. The people that have all the power are the rich, and what they do is they end up creating policies and programs that support their status, that's going to allow their status to continue. They're not going to create programs for that are going to take away their status in life. This in the United States gets into like one of the main differences between the two-party system that we have here. The Republicans, which would hold very closely to the fact that it would support business and the upper class, whereas the Democratic Party tends to be one that supports more social programs in support of those who are more disadvantaged. And we find often that the Republican Party does not have a taste for doing that. And whereas the Democratic Party doesn't have a taste for strict programs and so on that continue to disadvantage people. So you can see here that the histor- that the it becomes very much a part of class consciousness, this class struggle, and it becomes part of the political parties. This is true in other countries, although I'm not an expert on political systems in other countries. But you would know based on your lived experiences, does your government does it really seek to uh, bring about less oppression for those who are currently mostly impoverished, or does it really seek to promote the privilege of the very wealthy, and that divide between the wealthy and the poor continues? So what I'm talking about here is these are this is the context. It's the core concepts that Marx's work points to. What does that then have to do with alienation and the impact of capitalism on human relations? Well, we can say that capitalism, which the United States has long been a capitalist society, we find that it violates human rights. Although the Republican Party would not agree with me necessarily. I think you would find any number of Democrats that would agree with me. But when we have businesses in the United States that can no longer operate or choose not to operate in the United States because they say that labor has become so expensive, do not think twice about moving their companies to another country where labor is much cheaper, and unfortunately, where some of those countries actually use child labor, and the United States, being a capitalist society, turns a blind eye to that. And there are groups that will bring that up, and then there are plenty that just want to remain blind to that. Um, and in our purchases, for instance, when we buy a shirt that is made by child labor that costs the company that's making it cents on the dollar, and they sell it in the United States for a profit, where some shirts that are made by child labor are selling for like $100, $200 for a shirt, and shoes, hundreds of dollars. This is all based on cheap labor from other countries, and then making huge profits on it here in this country. So this is the type of thing that Marx talked about in his theory. And his theory held that the only way that uh, Marx believed that in order to make changes in that system of oppression is through conflict, through class conflict, where the literally the and we do that today, don't we? There's the conflict is carried out through strikes. So people aren't getting a fair shake from the business owners. What they do is they threaten to go on strike, or they do strike until their demands are met. So anyway, and all of this brings about an alienation of really, I think, of the human spirit in many ways. It's degrading, it's demeaning, it brings about more selfishness, it brings about resentment, and so on, and all of that impacts human relations. And then Marx also talked about the theory of surplus value and exploitation, and I've already covered that in what I just said. The exploitation of certain groups. Um, so Marx brings all that up and is part of his core concepts. So I've said that just off the top of my head. Now, would I be able to write all of what I said in an essay and say, well, I know that, which obviously I do? No, I could not say all of that in an essay without using references to support that content. Why? Because what I have just said to you is not common knowledge. It's not. It's common knowledge maybe among a small group. I would venture to guess that that group is probably scholars like myself who have advanced degrees, although there are plenty of people that understand Marx who don't have advanced degrees. Still, in all, they have to, if they're going to talk about it, they have to use some form of support if they're writing it in a paper. If they don't, then it's called plagiarism. Okay? And so I don't want any of us to ever plagiarize in a paper. It's the worst thing you can do in academics. Okay, and then the third section over here is in this paper is influence and legacy. So examine how Marx's ideas have influenced sociological thought and practice, including the development of conflict theory and critical sociology. You could even get in here into how his legacy is seen through the development of feminism. I think you can make this. Well, feminism did develop out of Marxist thinking, but you can make arguments for other theories that are really their legacy is the legacy of Marx is seen in those particular theories. Queer theory might be another one that we would see. So anyway, uh, here you want to talk about the influence and legacy of Marx. So that itself is going to be a few paragraphs of well thought out content that you add into your essay. Then we get into perceptions of Marx in society. Okay, so in this section of our paper, perceptions of Marx in society, we're going to talk first about global perceptions. So over here in our notes, it says provide an overview of how Marx's ideas have been received globally, noting variations across different societies and political systems. Well, yeah, for any of these topics, you could write books on any of these topics. All you're being asked to do here is to bring it down to a few well thought out sentences for each one of these things. You know, you're not being asked to write a dissertation. You're simply in a very meaningful, studied way, you're going to write a paragraph or several sentences for these subtopics. Then we're going to look at local context. So uh, after we talk about global perceptions, then what's the local context? Um, focus on the specific perceptions of Marx within your own society. talk about talk about Marxism and its influence maybe on the educational narratives and how Marx is taught in schools and universities, if it even is. It's a in certain areas you bring up Marx and it's like, oh my God, you're bringing up you're wanting to promote the devil, you know, and that's absolutely based on ignorance on people's parts that would say that. They don't understand Marx, and you're going to be enlightened, and you're going to know how silly those types of statements really are. In this local context, media representations and public discourse around Marxism and socialism in the United States, that's a claim that especially people on the far right, the ultra conservatives in our country, the fundamentalists of our country, politically and religious, the thing that if they don't like something or it seems like it's too much of a it's too it's helping other groups with social programs and so on, social medicine or whatever, which we don't have in this country. We pay a high premium for medical, whereas other countries have socialized medicine. Canada, for instance, I believe, yeah, Great Britain does. So those countries, are the most conservative people out of ignorance will say, they're practicing socialism. I don't. That's an ignorant statement to make. And then what, in terms of local context, the political attitudes towards Marxist theory, support and criticism. So get into some really interesting things there. Then in the next section, we move down to our personal reflections on Karl Marx. So here, um, we're going to talk about our personal encounters. Students can reflect on their first encounters with Marxist ideas and how those experiences shaped your own initial perceptions. Um, and here you don't really need to unless you're quoting ideas from someone else. Here I don't think you really need to go looking for support. Here you're talking from your own experiences. Again, it can be you're walking a fine line, because if you start quoting or using ideas that belong to someone else, then you have to give support to those ideas by identifying the person who makes those statements. What's the influence of societal views? Analyze how societal perceptions, which you already have discussed, have influenced or changed your views on Karl Marx. So hopefully this course is going to make some great changes in the way you think. So here we want to explore that a little bit. Critical evaluation: encourage students to critically evaluate Marx's ideas, considering their relevance and applicability to contemporary issues in society. So the way I have been speaking and using examples from in this country, the Republicans, the Democrats, and the fundamentalists, and the far right versus the far left. Those are all critical evaluations that I'm making. So I can make those statements, and I probably would want to support some of that with some research. Okay, and then finally the conclusion. We'll want to provide a summary. So make a brief recapitulation of what you've stated, the key points that you've covered in your essay, emphasizing Marx's contributions to sociology and the interplay between societal perceptions and your own personal views. So you're doing a recap. The personal stance, you can articulate your own stance on Marx's contributions, but make sure they're informed by the analysis that you've done in your paper, in the study that you've done. You want to inform what you say and think and write by what you're learning. And then future implications. Speculate on the future relevance of Marx's ideas in sociology. How has Marx survived for over 100, 200 years? How has Marx, well, it's not 200 years, but 100 plus, how is it that Marx has survived? There's value in what he's saying, obviously. He's not just stuck around in sociology books and articles uh, for no reason. What's the significance, and what are the future implications of that? And then finally, you want to have your reference section. So that's what I want to get into now. Is I want to go to the library, and I'm not going to do the entire paper here, but I want to take a look at the library and see what it can offer to us in for our paper. So let's just take examples of how Marx's ideas have influenced sociological thought. All right, so I'm going to do how Marx's ideas. Let's see if we can find anything of interest on that. So I'm going to go over to the library, which is in resources. So I click on resources, and then I choose U of People Library. And then I click this first link. Don't go down here and click that. That's going to take you to a whole different thing. Click on link to JSTOR, and you should have this nice picture. And this is the search box. Search journals, books, images, and primary sources. So I'm going to just put in there what I copied from the and notice that already tells me there's 2.5 thousand results. So I'm going to click on search. Okay, and so here it starts bringing up, it brought up 2,547 results. Now that's not bad. That's still too many to go through, but sometimes if you put something that's too broad in here, it's going to bring up 100,000 results, and that's just too many. So what you want to do is you want to go back to your paper and understand what you're looking for first. Here we want to find some things that'll support the idea of Marx's ideas and how they've influenced sociology, thought and practices. Well, we can look at Marx's theory of ideas. So I could take a look at this. I don't want, maybe don't want to download it yet, but I can click on this and this will bring up a picture of the. So here we can look at Philip Kane uh, and read a little bit and say, does this really say, is this gonna provide me with some information that I can use? Um, so this could be useful if you're from want to compare it like from Germany or that there's value in this for others, but this one he talks about specifically. He explains how Marxist theories and methodology can be clarified by examining important differences between the views held in the German ideology and those held, on the other hand, earlier in the by Marx. So that would be an interesting article to read, and maybe even you could read it and say, "Hey, does some of this maybe apply to my country?" And maybe not. I don't know. You have to make decisions on from this. Here's talking about Marx, Weber. That's not Weber. His name is pronounced Weber, like Vaber, Weber, Max Weber, and the development of capitalism. Well, didn't we talk about capitalism as I was giving my explanations? So that might be something I want to look at and um, read the abstract and see what does the abstract offer. Does it tell us anything that might be meaningful? And then what you're going to have to do is this is where the hard work begins. But I've saved you so much time because I've created outlines for you. Um, you're not going to find other instructors, I don't think, that are offering those outlines. And I started doing this only the last term. So even though I've been teaching these courses for many years, um, I, I, I don't want students to. I think if I offer an outline, and that takes a lot of work away from you trying to figure out how you're going to structure your paper. Now you need to do is do the fun part. The paper's already set up, right? The outline helps you set up your paper like we just did. Now you can go do the fun part, which is going and finding your resources, reading it, taking notes, noting who said it, and then um, adding that content to your paper in the form of in-text citations and references. Now, I do want to point something out here since we're in the library. You'll notice over here where it says cite. So I'm going to click on that for this particular article. And this is a journal article. This is a peer-reviewed journal article from Sociology. Over here on the far left, you can see Anthony Giddens, who is a highly regarded sociologist. He published this article in Sociology back in 1970 in volume 4, issue number 3, and it's pages 289 to 310, 22 pages. And this is the DOR, or this is what you'd want to use for your as a reference to. So let's look at cite. Now, notice that it's loading the various versions. So it gives you, this is if you were required to write MLA, this is what it says your citation should look like. If you're using Chicago, we're using APA. So this is, we're going to copy this, but I'm going to point out some things. So I'm going to go back to my paper, and let's say I chose to use that. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste it. Now, you're going to say, well, the library said that's the way it's supposed to look. That isn't it correct? No, it's wrong. You can't depend on any of the tools to produce the the exact way that it should look. Yes, generally it's correct according to APA, but there's some serious problems here, and you must know that as a student and not rely on tools to correct it. So I'm going to now correct this for you, and I want you to see the difference. So Giddens, A, Anthony Giddens, we use Giddens last name first, comma, A period, that's correct. So this is correct. 1970 in parentheses, that's correct. Followed by a period. That's correct. Marx, this is incorrect. What's wrong with it? Well, it should look like this. That's the way it should look. This is now correct. Next, sociology, the name of the journal. Notice that it is italicized. Next is the volume number, or the volume. It's volume 4. Now, number 3, I don't mark it wrong if you still use APA 6th edition and prior to that said you have to use the issue number of the journal. APA 7 said, no, you don't. So this would be correct. But I say either. If you want to put the number or not, it doesn't matter. I tend to still use it only because I'm so used to it. I don't think about not using it. Then that's followed by a comma and the page numbers where that is found within that journal. And then we put its DOI or its URL. Okay? And then we would also want to make it correct by changing the indentation. So to do that, you highlight the reference. You go up here in Word to paragraph. Click this little arrow in the lower right corner, and then where it says indentation, see where it says special? Choose the down arrow and choose hanging. And then over here where it says line spacing, use double. Click OK, and now your reference is correct. It's correctly formatted, looks beautiful, and then you continue to add your references below. Then what you want to do when you're done or as you're going along, you have to make sure that your references are in alphabetical order by the first name. So uh, if I had one up here, let's say whatever, and then um, well, that wouldn't be bold, would it? It would be, this would be incorrect because this actually needs to follow that. GR follows GI. Okay? So make sure your references are in alphabetical order. All right. All right. Now, what I want to do next is I want to show you how to import your paper into the discussion forum. So I'm going to actually use a paper that's right here that's actually written. Okay, it's notice that it's done. This I'm using as example. This is the same paper, by the way, I use in my other video on how to upload or import your paper. So let's use this paper, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just save this to my desktop. And I'm going to just rename it I'm just going to name it Discussion Essay Unit 1 and save it to my desktop. Okay? All right. So now to let's go to go to these are just the courses that I have taught in the past. All right. So I want to go over here to Discussion Forum Unit 1, and I want to open Discussion Forum Unit 1. You notice that this is the instructor's view. Um, you see that I'm opening up for group 16. Um, so far, there's 84 replies to my initial post. But let's go over here to the paper. And these are the instructions and you're going to reply here. So when you reply there, it opens this text box. But this is not what you want. You want to go one step further and choose advanced. Choose advanced, and that opens up this screen, okay? So this is what you want. Now, over here above in this text box, you're going to see a lot of different controls. Okay? You're going to see uh, link, unlink, prevent auto link, we're going to look at you're going to go over here to this down arrow on the far left and click on that. We'll get to that in a minute, but you're going to need that. And then on this top row of icons, you'll see one that has the word, it has a W for word. You click on it and it says File Picker. So you're going to choose your file. So remember, I put my file out here on desktop, and I want to upload this file. Now notice here that it's now uploaded the file into, or imported the file into the text box. So we have some work to do, but a lot of the work has really been done for us. So what I want to do is go through and let's make some changes to the paragraphs. Uh, so on the first paragraph, I click 5 times. Here I'm going to click 5 times. I want to go through the entire paper and I want to click on select. If your paper does this where it's got a lot of hyperlinks in it, just do control, click inside of the box, do Control A, and then go up to this little icon that looks like a broken chain link and click on link, and that'll get rid of all that red print that you saw in my document earlier. So we want to go through and we want to indent these paragraphs. So there's no real good way to do it other than just click on the space bar and indent these paragraphs. Now this is, you're going to notice in my paper, you're going to notice that this is single spaced. It looks different than the other. And that's because this in my original paper is a block. I'll show it to you. It's a block. Uh, it's called block, and so if you see up here, it's justified as a block, uh, or it's a block that's justified. So that's the way you would do if you were doing a large quote. Okay, so let's go back to the paper. Okay, so you need to just, and that is not indented, by the way. And most of you aren't going to have a block quote, but you need to go through this and do some cleanup. Okay, so let's assume I did that. Okay, I went through, I did all that. Now here's a problem. When you when you import the document, it doesn't play nice with the reference section. So notice that it's cut off all the authors' names there. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to go back to my paper. And I'm going to go to the reference section. And I'm going to do a copy, highlight it. Then I'm going to do a Control C, copy. I'm going to go back to my paper here and I'm going to do a Control V. And I'm pasting my references. Okay? Now, there's not a lot we can do about the hanging indent in Moodle. It just doesn't it's not that sophisticated, okay? So we do what we can with what we have. And we go through and we get rid of some of this extra spacing. So you go through, then when you're done with this, all this cleanup, you say, you know, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get rid of that spacing at the top there. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say post to forum. Okay, so now here's my paper posted to the forum. And notice that it looks pretty good. I mean, I didn't clean it up all the way, but you can tell that it looks pretty good. It looks almost like it would in Word. It's got a different font, which that's okay. Um, there's some places here where it didn't catch the double spacing. Well, let's see if we can correct that. I don't know. Edit. And let's go in here and see this section here. Let's see, does it allow us to change the spacing? I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. So that's okay. We can live with this the way it is. Okay. So overall, this is pretty good. And this is what then you would do for your discussion forum. You do not do this import for your learning journal. So for your learning journal, you're going to well, I don't have the same access. I but you're going to upload your paper. You're going to actually import your Word document for your learning journal and for your written assignment. Okay? So I think that's about all I wanted to cover in this video. If you have any questions, let me know. And I wish you well in writing your papers.